The Clinton Township had 2 buildings. We sold the back one. It had been vacant for some time. So those 2 sales did result in some money going into our reserves, which was great. And the new Flint Service Center just recently had its grand opening, I believe. Thank you. So those were all positive things. We are still managing our fund balance and our operating balance. When the merger happened 5 years ago, we were down to just a couple months of reserves. And as anyone who runs a house, you know you like to have a couple months in the bank for emergencies and that. At the end of this past fiscal year, we were close to 12 months in reserve. Now, I always measure as the finance chair, and I'm a financial planner in my day life, I measure what I call the Valley of Death month, which is February for us. That's right before the cookie sale. And we like to be able to write the check to the cookie people ahead of schedule, so we save 5%. We're always looking to save some money. Where our reserves were 0.2 5 years ago in February, and now we're at 2.5 in February. So I think that's a huge 0.2 months of reserves, just 2 weeks. So, that's, if, any of you are paying your household bills and you're like, well, I've got $20 left for the week, that doesn't feel good. To have 2.5 months in your bank account at your worst possible month, when you know the next month your bonus is coming in or whatever, you feel a little bit better knowing that we're going to be okay. So that's really very important. The other big issue is that we had a no deficiency audit. We get audited every year. If any of you work in the corporate world or nonprofit world, you know this is a very pleasant experience. And to get a no deficiency audit is just a credit to the management team and the finance team. So you can thank Denise and the 2 Denises and their team here for working to be so efficient and make sure that all the hard work that you guys are doing out there isn't going to waste. We don't like waste. And we have a very critical thing going on, and Rhonda Orr over here, our board secretary, is chairing the pension committee, is that we will be terminating our defined benefit plan. It has been frozen, so no new funds have been in there, but if you hear in the news, right, like the Detroit Pension Fund, there's all these huge dollars involved with these plans. This has been a big monkey on our back, and we've been managing it for the last few years, and now our assets and the amount owed have kind of come together so that we have a wonderful opportunity to terminate this and free up some money as we move forward. That will reduce our costs going forward and get what I like to technically call a huge monkey off our back. So just to recap some of the numbers, what you're looking at here is comparing the end of last year, 2012, versus the end of our fiscal year, 2013. You'll notice that in 2012 we did have more revenue than this year, partially because we sold the Timbers property in 2012. We also had a better cookie sale in 2012 versus last year. Operating expenses were up a little bit last year, so our income from operations, we did have a deficit. But then we add back in depreciation. If you own property like we do, those camps and that, every year we have to depreciate them. So our net operating results before depreciation was $433,000. So their team does a great job of cutting, not filling open positions when the cookie sale didn't go so well last year. This is just a couple years to show you what the financial, like just cash, how much cash do we have in the bank. At the end of September, we had $9.8 million. In property, or other assets, I should say, it's more than just property, it's cars, vans, everything. We had 11.8. You'll notice that has been going down because we have been divesting ourselves of camps and buildings that we no longer were using. So I'm not going to go through each number, I'm sure all of you can read, but you can see the months in reserve at the end of September. We had 11.5 months in reserves at the end of September. Now, we don't want that number to grow significantly. We want that money now that we feel very comfortable to start reinvesting back into the girls. So where does our money come from? I just wanted to share this with you. 71% of our revenue comes from the cookie sale. So you can see that every box of cookies our young ladies sell hugely impacts our organization. Grants and donors represent 9%. Camp revenue only represents 5%. Series and events, merchandising, the fall product sale only represents 4% of our revenue. So part of the goal of the Fund Development Committee led by Kathy Ossian is to diversify our revenue streams in the future. And where does the money go? Adult and girl membership support, 57% goes directly back to those girls. 27% goes back to camp properties. So camp revenue 5%, camp expenditures 27%. You can see why we have some concerns with the camps. And I did want to add on to something that Denise was saying about the camps. Just because we might not own a camp doesn't mean that our girls can't have a camping experience. Just doesn't mean that we have to be paying to mow the lawns. So you can kind of get an idea where the money goes here. Fundraising, that's the fundraising team that's constantly working with all the various corporate organizations and other funding organizations. And very little goes to management in general. 6% is very low in the nonprofit world. So you have a very frugal management team here. Now, where does the cookie crumble? How's that little Thin Mint crumble? Wanted to break that down. So when you sell a box of cookies, $1.21 goes right to the girls, right? Adult and girl members that support. 59 cents goes to camping. The rewards, when girls, troops and the girls sell things, a certain portion goes to that. 97 cents in the past has gone to the bakery cost. That's going up slightly. We did manage to secure a add-on contract. One of the things we were very worried about is commodity pricing. You know, commodities have gone up. You know, you have all these droughts going on, wheat, flour, and all those kinds of things. Well, we managed to keep that inflation out of our cookie costs, so we did a good job, I think, doing that. And so you can see where it goes. So I think it's kind of interesting. So every box of cookies you sell, and these young people sell, really directly impacts the organization. So what do we have on our plate for this year from the financial team? Our big one I mentioned already is terminating the defined benefit plan. It frees up a lot of capital and expenses. The board, from the sale of the timbers, did set aside a significant amount of money. It just has it sitting there waiting for whatever we have to pay this off. We're anticipating maybe not having to use all of it, so that's a very good thing. We just approved a new magazine vendor, which Denise already kind of highlighted some of that, and the trophy nut. We're getting those salted caramels this year. I had to test taste everything just to make sure for you guys that they were good. And then the next big item that Elaine Marcotte on our finance team and board member is leading the path on is a long-range financial plan where we're going to try to look out 5-6 years out and see where we're at on various things and look down the future a little way. One thing that I wanted you guys to know is that the finance committee looks at every single contract over a certain dollar amount, constantly putting things out for bid. So we're squeezing everything to make sure that all the dollars that could possibly go to the girls are going to the girls. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any questions for Diane? Yeah, there's a question in the back.
Well, Rick is the property committee manager, so he can speak a little bit. I'll throw you under the bus on that one. But I believe we did. The other big thing I do know from the Flint facility is that if we did not sell it, we were going to have to shell out 6 figures for a roof. So it was a little scary there. So it's sort of like, your house is starting to fall apart, and you're like, I think I'll sell it. So, so we kind of got that one, and then the Clinton Township one, I believe we at least got market value. It's still kind of over in that particular area, not the most robust market for properties in that. But when you look at a property, the cost of keeping it is very expensive too, so. Any other questions? Yes.
Where the money comes from, I don't see a wedge for candy and nuts. Anything?
That's the fall, where the money comes from, that's fall sale.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry.
That's okay. There's another question over there?
How do you define adult and girl member support?
I don't know what it is. Okay.
Adult member support would include your troop specialist, your troop people, the staff, the buildings, the, all supplies, all of that kind of stuff. And so in the nonprofit world, that's considered direct services. I'm management in general. It isn't just me. I don't get on that whole 4%. There's, the finance department and HR and, all that.
Yep. Sure.
Look at a better understanding instead of, I think a lot of people, might not have got that whole concept.
Okay, when the councils merged, I don't remember the exact number. How many plans were there?
14.
There were 14? 14. There were 14 defined benefit pensions. That's what I was like, that's, yeah. Okay, she's going to.
When the council merged, there were 14 different plans. 2 of them, there were, 3 defined benefit plans. That's where you get the set amount every month when you retire. 2 of those got picked up by GSUSA. No, there were 4. 2 got picked up by GSUSA. The Clinton Township one is a condition of merger. We terminated that plan, a frozen plan. And so that by terminating a pension plan, that means you put it out into the insurance market, and you have to have enough money to fully fund it. And then companies who can manage it better than we do, because that's their business, then they take over the payment to the pensioners. So when we say we're terminating plans, this is not like what's happening at the city of Detroit where the pensioners don't get their money. People continue to get the same money that they're always entitled to. We had to roll in, fold in all of the 403, 401k plans, which is a defined contribution. Council pays 3%, matches up to 3% of a person's salary, which is pretty darn modest in my opinion, but that's it's better than nothing. And we have 1 of those left. The legacy plan that we're talking about is the old Girl Scouts Metro Detroit pension plan that was through the United Way, that was frozen in 2004. And when the councils merged in 2009, we had to take on all the previous debts. Now, you want to ask me anything more technical, then you should talk to these guys, the chair of the pension committee and our treasurer.
But, from a negative perspective, that's a real question. There are employees that are active with the organization that will be given a contract. They'll be given the option for a lump sum, or they can continue their this frozen plan with the insurance company, which has not been chosen yet. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. And I will mention on the pension, many of you may be familiar with that whole issue of pension because that's been what's happening in the private sector as well, where, essentially the pensions, when the company can fund them, they turn them over then to an insurance company and it becomes an annuity. Employees have the option of taking a lump sum or continuing on with a payment. So I'm glad you asked that question because that was in my mind as well. I don't want anyone to walk out of here thinking that we're just chopping benefits for pensioners. Certainly not what we're doing, not consistent with our values, okay? So again, I want to thank Diane. I think she does a fabulous job for taking what could be a complex and maybe a little bit of a boring subject and putting it in user-friendly terms to help you understand. I have to say, again, I want to re-echo her sentiment. I am very, very appreciative of the capabilities of the staff and the expertise that we get from the board, particularly in the financial area. Rhonda Orr, as was mentioned, chairs our pension committee. If we had to pay for services that committee does, we have actuaries, we have pension attorneys, we have people who have expertise that are, clearly beyond most of our capabilities. And if we had to pay for that service to manage these plans and ensure that we're treating not only our own employees but our legacy employees fairly, it would cost us a sum of money. So I think tremendous work has been done, and we're very, very grateful for the in-kind support that we get to manage a very complex piece of the business. So with that, because there were some questions on property, I want to turn the podium now over to Richard Sundquist, who is the chair of our property committee.
Thank you,
Nancy. Good morning, everybody. I'm very fortunate to be the chair of a committee that has a bunch of very loyal members. Lisa Morse, Lane Marcotte from your board, Carol McConnell, Sarah Obozek, all have been on this committee since 2009 when it was formed. We have great institutional knowledge. We probably could use a couple of new faces, and I'd encourage some folks here perhaps to give some consideration to it. But again, thank you for my committee. I'd also like to thank one other person, Bill Senstock. Could you stand up, please? Bill is the director of facilities. His job is to send me an email every single day reminding me of what we need to do in the property committee. So thank you, Bill, and keep it up. Did anybody seen the Cat Moxie movie besides your friends? I wasn't looking at the people in the movie. I was looking at something else. Did anybody see anything, something extraordinary and unusual? No? Green grass. That's Bill's job too, so thank you, Bill, and keep up that good work. We had, now if you feel like you've already seen this information, it's because you did, Diane. So we had three major accomplishments this year. We sold the Austin Parkway property, which is in Flint. If you've been up there, it was really a nice building. Served us well over the years, but it was far larger than we needed, and it was getting extraordinarily expensive to maintain. The roofing cost was going to be at least $150,000 to repair it. We've had it on the market for at least 3 years, and the person in the back who asked the question, did we sell it for fair market value? Yes, we sold it for fair market value. Fair market value is determined by what a willing buyer will pay to a willing seller, and that's what we got. I'm in the real estate business, so, and our committee is familiar with these things too. We will never sell a property for less than it's worth. We get offers all the time on our property, and we toss aside anything that looks like a low offer. So, to answer your question, we did get fair market value. Now, as sad as we are to leave the Motel 6, Harley Davidson, and Sonic Burger location at Austin Parkway, we did move to a new facility on the East Court Street. It's right in downtown Flint. It's beautiful. The building is beautiful. It's safe. There's a huge 250 space parking lot just to the east of the building. You walk right across the street. It's a fabulous place. You need security guards. And there's a security guard on the interior of the building. We share space with foundations, law firms, banks, and so forth. So if you're ever up in the Flint area, please stop by and see it. Now that didn't just occur over a few weeks. This was a couple of years in the process. The committee went on a couple of field trips. That's part of the fun stuff that we do. Walked the streets of downtown Flint, looked at all kinds of different facilities, and we landed on what we think was the best bargain, the most attractive, and the safest place. So we were also fortunate to sell the property on Garfield Road. This is the old service center in the back. This was excess property. We have a building in the front, so all of our needs are met. We had numerous offers on that property, some for at least $100,000 less than we actually sold it for. But this was an extraordinarily difficult sale. Lots of odd people doing odd things, but ultimately we got a very good price and a very good deal on the sale of that property. After 5 years, we still have 5 service centers, 3 of which we own. We still have 5 camps. We started with 6. We still have camps that are listed for sale in whole or in part. We will never sell a camp for less than it's worth, and we are always being presented with offers of one type or another, most of which are too low and not worth considering. But one key component, you do need to use the camps. Denise mentioned that to you. It's critically important that you do that. Otherwise, we're going to have fewer cans. They're very expensive to maintain, and while we don't pay real estate taxes, we still have to maintain the facilities, we still have to heat, we still have to secure them, we still have to insure them. So we're always going to have camping in this council. It's a critical component of the Girl Scout experience, but please use our properties. Any questions? Okay, great, thank you.
Again, thank you, Rick, and again, Rick is another great example, is professionally a real estate attorney, knows the business well, puts in a lot of time to help lead the property effort. If we actually had to pay him for his services, there'd be less programs for girls, and so he's been a very committed member of our board and has certainly used his professional expertise to help.